Well, thank you again. Well, good morning. A long time ago, in a kingdom far, far away, there lived a princess. And the princess developed an open sore on the tip of her nose. The king called the royal family's doctor, and the doctor looked at it and said, this shouldn't be a problem, put some salve on it. But the princess kept picking at it, and so it wouldn't heal. And the doctor tried again, and like I said, she kept picking at it. So the king put out a call to anyone who could figure out how to, heal her open sore. And another doctor in the kingdom came and examined the princess. And he's looking at her, and he says, And she says, what? He goes, oh, no, I don't want to say anything. And she says, you must say something. He goes, no, I wouldn't want to scare you. Now you really have to tell me. And the king is there, and he says, yes, you must tell my daughter. I demand this of you. He says, well, he goes, yeah, your sore will heal in a couple of days, but you have a rare condition in which you may grow a tail. And the tail may grow to be 5 feet long. And she says, no. He says, well, here's what I want you to do. If you notice the tail start to grow, call me right away. We can probably arrest it. He says, but right now, that's my major concern. He says, I'll come back in 3 weeks. And so for the next 3 weeks, the princess was, constantly checking herself and, and asking, asking people, does this dress make me look ferret? But the other doctor came back 3 weeks later, and the open sore on her nose had healed just fine. And the king actually gave him a nice reward. And he pointed out to her, she's fine. If she hasn't developed a tail by now, she's not going to develop a tail. But think about the psychology there. She was obsessed with this open sore on the tip of her nose. And so this other doctor was wise enough to shift her focus to something else. And when he did that, she was able to heal just fine. Now, isn't it fascinating how much we will focus on the things that we don't want rather than on the things that we do want? I'm going to have Duncan put up our first slide. We're working through the book E Squared by Pam Grout. And in it she writes, currently our minds are devoted to things we do not want. Our positive intentions occupy but a tiny sliver of our minds. The rest is focused on the problems we hope the intentions will eliminate. The reason 99% of your mind is devoted to the things you don't want is because that's the world's default setting. What the world defines as normal. Now, this book, E Squared, is written by Pam Grout, who goes to the church in Lawrence, Kansas. And she, working with her minister, wanted to come up with, how do I bring the spiritual message to more people, who don't maybe come to Unity right now. And so she came up with these 9 experiments that you can do to prove that indeed there is a spiritual energy that is in us and around us. And so we have, of course, some book study groups going, and Duncan put up as far as our Facebook page. We've got a separate Facebook page for this particular book study, UT book study. Along those lines, though, I wanted to take a look at a Bible story that I think kind of also illustrates this phenomenon. It's from the Gospel of Matthew, 14th chapter, 22nd verse. Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up onto the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone, but the boat by this time was distant from the land, beaten by waves, for the wind was against them. And in the 4th watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified, saying, "It's a ghost!" And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Take heart, it is I. Have no fear." Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, tell me to come to you on the water." And he said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and started walking on the water to Jesus. But when he looked away at the wind, Peter was afraid and began to sink, crying out, "Lord, save me!" Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they both got into the boat, the wind ceased. There's some great symbolism in the story that applies to our everyday life right now, here in 2019. When Jesus went up onto the mountain, whenever you see someone go up onto the mountain, it means you've gone to a higher place in consciousness to pray. And yet the 12 disciples, are crossing the sea without him, and they got the wind in their face, and it seems like the whole world was against them. Sound familiar? The sea is representative of any areas of interest in our life. It's the journey of life, I guess is a good way to put it. And it was beaten by the waves. Now, Jesus always represents spiritual awareness. So it's interesting that the 12 disciples were out there without spiritual awareness, and it seemed like everything was against them. But suddenly, Jesus comes to them, the symbol of spiritual awareness, and starts to speak to them about having faith. And Peter, who represents faith, gets out and walks on the water. Duncan, go ahead and put up the slide. For those of you who aren't familiar with the 12 powers concept that Unity teaches, each of the 12 disciples is described as having certain characteristics. Each of us have these spiritual gifts. And if we're aware of it, we can call forth these spiritual gifts in service to what it is we do in our life. So that's why Jesus is saying, Peter, you... So our 12 powers are faith, strength, wisdom, love, power, imagination, understanding, will, order, zeal, renunciation, and life. Now, Peter, representing faith, was walking on the water towards Jesus, but then he gets distracted. He starts to look at the wind, the things that seem to be against him, and he starts to sink. And of course, that's part of our vernacular, getting that sinking feeling. But Jesus reaches out, grabs his hand, and says, you of little faith, why did you doubt? I thought it was interesting, though, that these 12 disciples were out there on the water. They didn't pray or ask Jesus to come to them. Jesus came to them anyway. So even if you're having a challenging time in your life and you forget spiritual awareness and the fact that you are a spiritual being having a human experience, that spiritual awareness comes to you, kind of gives you that nudge and says, hey, remember who you truly are. This book, E Squared, the third experiment is the one we're addressing this week. It's called the Albert Einstein experiment. And of course, one of Einstein's, of course, Einstein came up with all of these theories and proved many of them that just went against what was the belief of physics back when he got started over 100 years ago. But everything is vibrating energy. The pew you're sitting in right now is vibrating energy. Your body is vibrating energy. And so each of us is an energy field that's part of a larger energy field. This fact has been discovered and confirmed by all who look deeply and intently into any arena of life, including scientists, spiritual leaders, and philosophers. Now, just to name a few, Plato, Newton, Carnegie, Beethoven, Shakespeare, and yes, of course, Albert Einstein. The spiritual masters speak of this fact. I just used the Bible passage from Jesus talking about, just giving that demonstration that yes, his thoughts, his feelings, his energy can affect that energy that just seems to be against us in life and can cause that chaos to cease. In Unity, we call it the law of attraction. We draw to us that which we think about, that which the thoughts and the feelings that we focus on are going to demonstrate in our lives. So we send out an energy field. It's like sending out radio waves. And so we kind of let other people know how to treat us. So would you rather have a sign on your back that says, kick me or encourage me? Someone asked the blind pianist Ray Charles, what he learned after losing his sight, at age 7. And he said, it's right underneath your fingers, baby. That's all you have to understand. Everything is right underneath your fingers. So every living thing has its own unique vibration signature. As humans, our vibrations change depending upon if we're happy or if we're sad, if we're angry or if we're feeling love. These are all energy, and we have this aura, this field of energy around us, that expands and contracts depending upon how we're feeling. I know spiritual healers and people who've been trained in healing touch, have noticed that when you bring your hands in close to someone's body, it almost feels like you're sticking your hand in water. That's because we're all projecting out this energy field. And I know in the book, Pam Grout points out if you kind of cross your hands here with your wrists and move your wrists closer to each other, you can kind of feel that energy field. Like, yeah, sure enough, it's like, it's almost like I'm putting my wrist in water as I get close to my other wrist. So, we have positive or negative emotions or feelings. We have expansion or contraction. And then, of course, as I mentioned many times, there's the polar opposites of love and fear. Some people think that hate is the opposite of love, but no, hate is a reaction to fear. It's a defensive reaction. So Pam Grout writes, 99% of who we are is invisible and untouchable. At each moment, you mold and shape this energy by your consciousness. You do this with every thought, every intention, every action. How you feel, what you think, believe, and value, and how you live your life will affect how the energy flows through you. So we radiate, like I said, that energy field. And this applies in any energy or any area of your life, like health, occupation, your relationships, your spiritual awareness, and yes, your finances, your financial flow. So, the experiment that she asks us to do this week is we get a wire hanger, a wire shirt hanger and cut it in half, and then kind of twist open the thing, and bend each half of the hanger into like an L shape, and then get 2 straws or 1 straw cut in half and slide these things in so that they just freely are waving back and forth. And then take a moment but then start thinking intentionally about something that makes you really happy or joyous. And what you'll notice is that the wires move outward. But then you can do the opposite. You think of something that just really frustrates you, and you'll notice that these wires move inward. And then if you direct your energy towards something on your right or your left, especially a person, you'll notice that indeed the wires move towards that person. I've got a video demonstrating that, so I was going to have Duncan go ahead and run that video. Oh, now this woman is a big fan of the University of Georgia football team. Now, for those of you who don't know, Georgia is the Bulldogs, so she'll mention the dogs a few times, so she's talking about the football team.
So for the experiment, I'm going to first try to let them kind of center out and just be neutral. And then I'm going to think of something that makes me upset. So for this experiment, I'm going to think about the Georgia versus Missouri game yesterday, which was where the Dogs lost in Athens. So right now, just I'm going to take a deep breath and think about that game and how I felt. Okay, I'm not doing anything except thinking about how I felt sad yesterday, and look at that. It just completely crossed right in the middle. So now I'm going to, okay, Janet, let it go. It's just a game. Okay, I'm not doing anything. I'm just trying to center myself back. Now I'm going to think of something exciting and fun. So how about when the Dogs beat Tennessee the week before and everything was glorious? That last-minute touchdown pass that Aaron Murray threw with 0.05 seconds on the clock. It was amazing, and we went into overtime, and then the guy kicked the field goal. Oh, that was awesome. Okay. And there they go outward. I'm only just holding it exactly how it was, but I'm just excited because that was a great win. So that just shows you, okay, just with my thoughts, okay, here we're neutral in fact, and I'm not doing anything. Now, my daughter, Caitlin, is sitting over on the sofa to the left of my shoulder, so I'm going to start thinking about Caitlin. And according to the experiment, these should go over to her direction. Caitlin, I get there. And they're inching over there to left, where she is sitting on the sofa. Oh, thank you. Thank you, little coherent.
I know, as I've mentioned before, I'm 62. You know, and back in like the 60s and early 70s, automobiles would have a radio antenna on the front fender. And it was kind of rigid, and it would telescope and all that, but occasionally something would catch that antenna and rip it off. And if that happened, you couldn't tune your radio to anything because you couldn't get the signal. And there was a quick fix that anybody could use to, at least until you could get that antenna replaced, and that was to take a wire hanger and shove it into the hole, and suddenly you're getting a radio signal. You know, so yeah, the metal picks up on this energy. So I encourage you to indeed do this experiment this week. You know, prove to yourself that yeah, you've got this energy field, and that you can actually manipulate the energy field with your thoughts and your feelings. So, the hypothesis that Pam says is, okay, you're a field of energy, and you're part of an even bigger field of energy. And if we are energy, we can expand, contract, or direct our energy. Our closing video is from two people who discovered that by changing their attitude and energy, they could actually have a healing.
When Danny Shulkowski and his sweetheart Esther Fitzrandolph walked down the aisle last weekend, they did so in the usual way, but in a most unusual place. A hospital chapel.
In sickness and in health. Just seemed like the obvious place to be married.
Sickness and in health.
When our love started here.
As we first reported a couple months ago, Esther, who was divorced, and Danny, a lifelong bachelor, met at the University of Rochester's Strong Memorial Hospital in Rochester, New York. They were both here for follow-up appointments after their heart transplant surgeries. They were both having complications, and they were both depressed.
I didn't want to do anything. I would just sit around.
I kind of refused the exercises and all that at times.
But after they started dating, they started improving. So quickly, their doctors couldn't believe it.
Sounds great.
Cardiologist Dr. Li Wei Chen says he and his staff didn't know about the romance.
We talked and said, yeah, she's doing better now. I wonder why. And yeah, he's been more active and involved in his care. I wonder why.
Today, Dr. Chen gives full credit to the healing power of love.
When your mind is in a better place and your heart, then you're going to heal better.
For the last few months, they've been living together on Carefree Lane. That's actually the name of the street, where this lifelong bachelor now hangs his new flowered coffee mugs.
Yeah,
This is even worse.
Living with a woman will clearly take some getting used to.
Honey, it's worse. It's not worst.
But Danny says he wouldn't trade this for the world, and he won't have to, thanks to two new hearts that are now off and racing. Steve Hartman, On the Road, in Rochester, New York.
Closing Bible verse, Matthew 14th, 29th verse. So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. But when he looked away at the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me!" And Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they both got into the boat, the wind ceased. And may you always be open to God's guidance and grace. Let's prepare for meditation.
This is the air I breathe. This is the air I breathe. Your holy presence living in me. This is the air I breathe. This is the air I breathe. Your holy presence living in me, and I'm desperate for you, and I'm lost without you.
Take a deep breath. Draw your focus inward. Draw your focus from your head down to your heart, and from your heart down to the center of your torso. Allow any illusion of separation between yourself and God to just melt away. We are open and receptive to God's living spirit of truth. And in unity, anytime we meditate and pray, we take time to pray for others. So bring to mind any individuals, families, groups, organizations, circumstances that you'd like to pray for now. We include the prayer requests placed in our prayer request box by the front door, and any other prayer requests received here at Unity of Tampa this week. And we see in each of these prayer requests wholeness. We see the divine perfection and the divine substance moving through each of these requests, unfolding as the highest good today and every day hereafter. Let's take a moment now to pray for Unity of Tampa. We see and know that this is an incredible, special place to each of us. A place where people come and change their lives from unpleasant to pleasant. This God presence as Unity of Tampa is a divine magnet, attracting anyone who can benefit from who we are and what we are about, attracting health, prosperity, love, joy, inner peace to Unity of Tampa and all of the individuals who come here. I now invite you to take the words I am about to speak as your own prayer words this morning. I am a field of energy. I radiate out this field of energy as an aura. And I recognize that I am a part of a larger field of energy that we know as the Holy Spirit or God. I recognize that I can dissolve and release any thoughts, any feelings, or any things that I no longer want in my life. I choose to concentrate on the God presence that is always available around me and within me. I ask this presence now to guide me in directing my energy in healthy, pleasant ways. I choose to concentrate my thoughts and feelings on the things I desire in my life. This universe is limitless, abundant, and accommodating. And as I prepare for 10 minutes of silence, I now ask for an ever-growing awareness of this field of potential energy in the silence. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. I remember that in each moment, I mold and shape energy by my consciousness. I do so with every thought, every intention, every action. How I feel, what I think, believe, and value, and how I live my life affects how the energy flows into and through me. For my ever-growing realization of this field of energy and all of God's good, I open my heart chakra and pour forth gratitude. I pray these things in the name and the nature and the power that we know as Jesus Christ. And I now release this prayer into the spiritual realm and know that perfect results are unfolding. And as we draw our attention back to the sanctuary, let's say together the words of the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we have forgiven our debtors. And leave us not in temptation, and deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
The band and I are going to be bringing you some original music this morning. So this song coming up is a song that I really just finished writing this week, or at least mostly finished writing it. But it's finished enough to perform. And if some of you were concerned as to why Olivia isn't here, also I should let you know her father has been going through some health challenges, and she's in St. Louis to spend time with him and be there for him. I don't want to speak to many more details than that because I don't know a whole lot. But as far as I know, she'll be back next Sunday and everything will be fine. So this song was also written with her in mind, but for the time being, I'm going to sing all the parts. So bear with us. 1, 2, 3, 4.
We want to welcome you back home, whatever path you're on. If you're not feeling strong, we welcome you. When you're feeling alright, any day, any night, we welcome you. We've got to get the chance to be a smiling face. We've got to sit ourselves in a quiet place. And we've got to live the truth that we're not alone. And we want to welcome you back home, whichever way you go, whatever you want to know, we welcome you. When you're feeling alright, whatever way you decide, we welcome you. We've got to get get the chance to be a smiling face. We've got to sit ourselves in a quiet place. We've got to live it, live the truth that we're not alone, and we want to welcome you back home. Welcome you. We want to welcome you back home. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh, ooh, hey. We want to welcome you. We've got to get the chance to be a smiling face. We've got to sit ourselves in a quiet place. We've got to live it, live the truth that we're not alone, and we want to welcome you back home. So you guys will hear more of that, perhaps. We'll try it again soon with Olivia, so thank you.
Well done. That's fantastic.